If you want to talk about prominent tough guys in Hollywood, then the American film and TV actor Lee Marvin has a special spot in that category. But there's so much more about this actor than meets the eye. You'd be surprised to know what he did when he won an Oscar. Find out the untold truth about American actor Lee Marvin and more in today's video. Before he became one of the most celebrated actors in Hollywood, let us first talk about Lee Marvin's beginnings. Born on February 24, 1924, as Lamont Waltman Marvin Jr. to World War I veteran Lamont Waltman Marvin and fashion designer Courtney Washington, the young Marvin Jr. grew up in New York. As a child, he took up violin and did not enjoy attending school because he had ADHD and dyslexia, which made it difficult for him. Despite this, he grew up to become a fine young man. During his teenage years, the future actor spent his weekends hunting deer, wild turkeys, and bobwhite in the then uncharted Everglades, something he enjoyed without inhibitions. During the 1930s, Marvin then attended a Christian socialist boarding school in New York called Manumit School and Peak Skill Military Academy. Later on, he was quite a handful during his teenage years because he got expelled from a couple of other schools for bad behavior and vices, indulging in smoking and brawls. The last school he attended was St. Leo College in St. Leo, Florida, before a certain event forced him to change his ways and take a different route in life. When the Second World War broke out, Marvin was one of the many men who answered the call to service, enlisting in the United States Marine Corps on August 2, 1942. His father, whom he called the Chief and who was a Marine veteran, was pretty much against it. But from the looks of it, boot camp was the only thing the young Marvin needed for discipline to be hammered onto his body, though there was still a bit of rowdiness in him. Right before he finished infantry school, Marvin was already a quartermaster in the Marines. Marvin accomplished a couple of impressive feats. He served as a scout sniper in the 4th Marine Division in the Pacific Theater and even participated in the battles on Eniwetok and Saipan, which was considered one of the most gruesome events back then. During his service, Marvin was wounded during their assault on Mount Tapasho during the Battle of Saipan, with the majority of his comrades being casualties of the said battle. On June 18, 1944, Marvin was shot by machine gun fire, where the bullet hit his sciatic nerve, and he also suffered another shot in his foot by an enemy sniper. Because of this, he was pulled out and received medical treatment, spending almost over a year in recovery. Fortunately, he recovered well and was given a medical discharge along with the Purple Heart for his acts of valor. In addition to that, Marvin was also the recipient of the Presidential Unit Citation, the Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the Combat Action Ribbon, and the World War II Victory Medal. Pretty impressive feats for a Marine ranked private first class. If Marvin wasn't such a troublemaker, he would have still held on to his previous rank as corporal. But it seems you couldn't really take the boy out of a man. Even though serving in the Marines was tough, Marvin credits his time there as the very thing that taught him how to act. "I'll tell you how," Marvin told interviewer Robert Ward. "It was the Marines who taught me how to act. After that, pretending to be rough wasn't so hard." As we all know, Lee Marvin was characterized by his signature white hair and was the prime example of an ice-cold tough guy. After the war, this is where Marvin's career really took off. But before we proceed, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. With the war finally over, Marvin returned home and took a job as a plumber's assistant in Woodstock, New York. But as fate would have it, this was his ticket to the entertainment industry. While working the job, the soon-to-be actor was called to take the place of an actor since the latter had fallen ill during rehearsals. On that same day, Marvin caught the acting bug, developing a passion for acting, and bagged himself a job at the company, earning $7 weekly. He took on many acting gigs before he relocated to Greenwich Village in Lower Manhattan, New York, and enrolled at the American Theater Wing. Fortunately for him, the GI Bill, which is the law that provided benefits for returning veterans, covered the fee for his acting lessons. At the start of his career, Marvin took on many uncredited roles, and it was in 1949 that he made his stage debut in the original production of the 1949 play Billy Budd. In that same year, Marvin also landed a role in the 1949 play The 19th Hole of Europe. Things started to pick up from there, and soon, the next thing he knew, Marvin's got himself booked and busy in several TV roles. Lee Marvin made his film debut in the 1951 American war comedy You're in the Navy Now, where he acted alongside Jack Warden and Charles Bronson. Coincidentally, it was also the two actors' film debut. Even though filming took place in Hollywood, Marvin opted to stay in California. Then, in the same year, he also had a small role in Fred Zinnemann's 1951 film Teresa, and this was the first time his military expertise came in handy. He helped out behind the scenes, assisting the directors and his co-stars by showcasing realistic portrayals of infantry movements. He even chimed in and helped with the costume and the use of firearms, too. Because of his military background, Lee Marvin was somewhat boxed into a certain character, which is often a man in uniform or in certain authoritative roles. He had a lot of projects, albeit minor, such as starring in one of the episodes of the American anthology Fireside Theater and another anthology titled Rebound. His other earlier works include Diplomatic Courier, Down Among the Sheltering Palms, We're Not Married, The Duel at Silver Creek, and Hangman's Knot. He assumed the role of men in uniform again in the Western film Seminole and the Korean War film The Glory Brigade, which were both released in 1953. As it turns out, Marvin was also a great fit for Westerns, so he had a couple of other projects in this genre, such as The Stranger Wore a Gun, Randolph Scott, and Gun Fury. All of these projects later led to his breakout role, which we're about to reveal. The 1950s were the pinnacle of the actor's career because, finally, Lee Marvin's lucky star shone brightly when his performance as the villain Vince Stone in the 1953 noir crime film The Big Heat was lauded by the public. In that same year, he starred opposite Marlon Brando in another American crime film titled The Wild One. Lee Marvin portrayed Chino, the leader of the motorcycle gang called the Beatles. These two films were widely received and signaled Marvin's success, which led to more successful projects. His role in the 1955 movie Violent Saturday was praised by critics, with one of them mentioning how his performance brought a multifaceted complexity to the role. Marvin also got to co-star with Frank Sinatra in Not as a Stranger, a medical drama back in 1955. He played a lot of supporting roles in this decade, like in A Life in the Balance, Pete Kelly's Blues, and Jane Wyman Presents the Fireside Theater. But if there's one series where Marvin bagged the lead role, it's in the series M Squad, where he took on the role of tough Chicago cop Frank Ballinger. He became a household name on TV, starring in multitudes of roles and taking on different characters. But there's one role that really struck the critics with how great he was at his craft. Is there a better way for an actor to show his skills than by portraying two different characters in the same movie? That's exactly what Marvin did in the 1965 comedic western Cat Ballou. Based on the novel The Ballad of Cat Ballou, Marvin starred opposite Jane Fonda, and according to the American Film Institute's Top 10 list in 2008, it was hailed as the 10th best western of all time. It tells the story of a woman named Catherine "Cat" Ballou, played by Fonda, who hires notorious gunslinger Kid Shalene to protect her father's ranch. Later on, she employs the same man to avenge her father's murder, only to discover that the gunman she hired isn't exactly what she hoped for. Here, we see Lee Marvin take on the dual roles of Kid Shalene and the noseless and ruthless assassin Tim Strawn. The Wolf City Development Corporation wanted to scare Frankie Ballou off his land, but Strawn just took the man out without remorse. At first, Cat seeks the help of the local authorities but finds out soon enough how the sheriff is deep in Wolf City's pockets. So now, she sought the help of Kid Shalene, who is quite a handful, a grizzled alcoholic and comedic at the same time. Cat had her doubts about employing him, but what choice does she have? Soon, she learned that there was a reason why Kid Shalene was notorious after seeing him in action with his unmissable crack shots. The man just had down a couple of drinks to shake off his withdrawal. Playing these two roles, who are the exact opposites, was a joy to watch, and one might even say that they're played by different actors. Where Tim Strawn is intimidating and dramatic, there's Kid Shalene, who is every bit of comedic relief. The latter is clumsy, often stumbling with pants falling and pooling around his ankles, drunk as hell, which makes him more appealing to the viewers. On the same breath, it also makes them wonder if he's the right person to take out the notorious Strawn, and that's where he's fueled by Cat's affection, striving to be a better man. Later on, it's revealed that these two men are actually brothers who are polar opposites. While Strawn is cutthroat and ruthless in his ways, Shalene is a sensitive man who was broken down by the sins of the world. Despite the latter's predicament, Cat is the only one who believes in him, which is why he tries his best to be better. Through her love, Shalene was able to face his demons and, in turn, his brother. Seeing how Lee Marvin managed to pull off such contrasting performances of characters sharing the same screen, it didn't come as a surprise that the movie not only became a box office hit but also garnered awards and nominations. The audiences were able to see a new side to Lee Marvin's authoritative and serious roles with his portrayal of Kid Shalene. You best believe the actor won, and you wouldn't believe what Marvin did during his acceptance speech. "Dedicated to a horse," he said. "I think half of this belongs to a horse someplace out in the valley," which drew laughter from the audience. After Cat Ballou, Lee Marvin undertook another Western project, and it's the 1966 film The Professionals, which was also a great hit. Following this, he got the lead role of Major John Reisman in The Dirty Dozen, which became one of his more popular films, starring alongside fellow tough guy actors, namely Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, and Donald Sutherland. Lee Marvin's Oscar win opened a lot more opportunities for him, and by then, they already knew he was a huge star. With that said, Marvin had a lot of control in his 1967 project Point Blank, where he portrayed a hard-nosed criminal hellbent on taking his revenge. John Boorman helmed this movie, and his next project, Hell in the Pacific. Even though this film wasn't widely successful, it was applauded by film critics. By the 1970s, Lee Marvin found himself starring in lesser bad guy roles, and he was able to explore other ventures as well. Though he still built a lot of Western projects, there was Monty Walsh, Prime Cut, Pocket Money, Emperor of the North, and The Iceman Cometh, to name a few. Although he met and worked with a lot of people, Lee Marvin is very particular about his friends and values his privacy, which is why there are only a few instances of him talking about his friends in the industry. "I can't stand myself," Marvin once said. "If I could, I'd play the same guy in all my roles. I don't even like my own company. I've got nothing new to tell myself, nor do I like the company of other actors. If I don't like myself, how could I like them? Since I can't go out in public as much as I used to, I do most of my socializing with the working stiffs on the set during a movie, the stuntmen, the gaffers, and the prop men. These behind-the-scenes guys keep me straight." When it comes to his relationships, Lee Marvin had 2 marriages and one complicated one, which became a public fiasco later on due to it being taken to court. But let us talk about his first marriage with Betty Ebling back in 1952. Despite their marriage ending in divorce, they still lived together for 15 wonderful years, though they had a brief separation for 2 years until their official split in 1967. The couple had 4 children, a son and 3 daughters, namely Christopher Lamont, Courtney Lee, Cynthia Louise, and Claudia Leslie. Right after his split with Ebling, Marvin got into a relationship with American actress Michelle Triola, who became his live-in girlfriend from 1965 to 1970. Even though they weren't married, Triola legally changed her name to Marvin and sought compensation similar to spouses under California's alimony, which became the infamous palimony lawsuit. She claimed that in the 6 years they were together, Triola got pregnant with Marvin's child, and she further claimed that he paid for 2 abortions while her other pregnancy ended in miscarriage. Furthermore, the actress said that the abortion rendered her unable to bear children. The lawsuit was highly publicized, so everyone was pretty much in their business. Even though the court ordered him to pay $104,000 for rehabilitation purposes, they denied her claim of one-half of the almost $4 million Marvin earned during their 6-year cohabitation. It was because non-marital relationship contracts are different from marriage, so her claim was not enough to cover that aspect. It took another 2 years before the court found out that there wasn't even a non-marital contract to begin with, thus nullifying the award she received and ending the case. As for Triola, she was romantically linked to the actor Dick Van Dyke from 1976 until her death from lung cancer in October 2009. Back to Lee Marvin, the actor's second and final marriage was to his childhood sweetheart, Pamela Feely. The two married in 1970 and remained married until his untimely death in 1987. As the Hollywood star got older, Marvin's star power waned, and he soon found himself starring in fewer projects by the 1980s. The actor's last role as a big shot came in the form of the sergeant in Samuel Fuller's 1980 epic war film The Big Red One. His other projects that followed, such as Death Hunt, Gorky Park, and Dog Day, were lesser commercial successes. The same goes for his TV projects. In 1985, he reprised his role as Major John Reisman in the sequel The Dirty Dozen, Next Mission, continuing where the first film left off, despite them being 18 years older now. Concerning his health, it's no secret that Lee Marvin struggled with alcoholism that stemmed from his time in wartime service throughout the course of his life, which was the cause of his demise. One infamous story about his sobriety problems happened during the filming of The Dirty Dozen, wherein his character, Major Reisman, was supposed to drive a truck with Charles Bronson's character, Joseph Ladislaw. When filming was about to start, they couldn't find Lee Marvin anywhere on set, and it was the filming crew who found him later on at a pub and brought him back on set, all boozed up. Since they still had to film the scene, the production crew did their best to sober him up, making him drink coffee right before. An angry Bronson walked up to him and threatened to kill Marvin right then and there, but thankfully, he didn't, and we got to see the masterpiece that is The Dirty Dozen. Back to the topic of his death, the actor died at the age of 63 due to a heart attack on August 29, 1987. Marvin suffered a major intestinal rupture that made him go into respiratory distress. The doctors decided to administer steroids to help his breathing, only for him to go into cardiac arrest. Months before his death, Marvin spent more than 2 weeks at the hospital in December 1986 due to a condition related to coccidioidomycosis. Despite his fame as a celebrity, Lee Marvin was prouder of his work in the Marine Corps, and he was given full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. There was no mention of him being an actor whatsoever. Marvin's headstone read, Lee Marvin, PFC U.S. Marine Corps, World War II. Maybe the reason why Lee Marvin didn't give as much importance to his career as an actor compared to serving the country is because he saw Hollywood for what it is. Stardom, Marvin once proclaimed. They put your name on a star on the sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard, and you walk down and find a pile of dog manure on it. That tells the whole story, baby.